Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about turning it all around. So let's get into it. So the question in question was in response to a comment where I tried to explain that one of the dangers when it comes to social interactions in a software team is that if you have the wrong person in a team, you can take a very high performing team and turn them into the lowest performing team that you have in the company. And I've seen this happen more than once. It takes less than a few months for this to happen. So it's a very dangerous thing. And it can happen really, really easily, usually. So the question was, so Frederick, in your opinion, is it possible to take a team from being less motivated to being a high performing team? And what are the key points to achieve this if for me as a potential team lead? This is an excellent question, and it is one of the hardest things for you to get right. I will say that the people who are effective at this are so rare that I've only met, I would say, one or two managers or team lead level managers in my entire career so far who has been able to be up to this challenge. Most managers have no way, they have almost no way of solving this problem. I've actually only, and at the company level it gets even trickier. The more and more people you have, the harder it is for you to get the time to really solve this in a permanent fashion, because scale kills everything when it comes to human interactions, which is the key element to solving teamwork, team spirit, all of these things. It's based on your connection to the people that you are dealing with. And if you're going to be at the company level, it's practically impossible for you in many cases to create a meaningful connection with all the people in that company and make them feel as if you really hear them and as if you care about them in the same that you're friends. It's hilarious to I think to see some CEO or some person who doesn't even know your name in the really large companies go out and say that he cares about everybody in this company. No, yeah, I'm sure. We're not even on a first name basis, and I think that you probably care as much about me as you care about like I'm pretty sure that we care about each other in a fairly equal fashion. And so for you, this should be your main priority because you are very lucky. You don't work at the highest levels, most likely with hundreds of people or thousands of people under you. So you actually have access to these people and you're working with them side by side, and you can get to know them. And that is why I think that the primary thing that you should focus on is to treat your software team as if you are their coach. Now, I'm not saying that you should put yourself above them or anything like that. I think that you should create a meaningful connection with everybody. When I say that you should be their coach or their trainer, I think that you should approach this in a very similar way to how I have approached both my, like I've used the same sort of methods, and it's worked exceedingly well in terms of creating a high performance team and people who really care about each other. You need to build trust between yourself and the people in that group. They need to trust you as the person who is, in charge or the authority, the person who, because once again, the goal here is not for you to create a distance between yourself and the people that you work with. You want the most intimate conversations and the most intimate connection that you can possibly create. Think of yourself as just someone who needs to have a level slightly above everybody else, so that if something happens, there's a stalemate or a disagreement, you can make a call. Ideally, you should always arrive at a decision to sit together whenever possible, but someone needs to be the go-to for all of the conversations and the stakeholders and like making tough decisions and so forth. That is you if you're the team lead. But you should still be as close as possible. Think of yourself as a sergeant. And the coaching mentality is, I think, the best one for you to have. You need to try to make each individual in that group the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. Now, when I used to teach martial arts, this was something that was pretty much my job. I had a group of people that I needed to look at their form. I needed to look at how like their footwork and their like how they threw a punch, how they kicked, all these sorts of things, and look for flaws in their execution, and then figure out ways to help each individual to be as good as they could be. Some of my students were not so good with their leg work, so we needed to work on that, and some of them were really good with their leg work but needed help with their punching and so forth. The same sort of thing you can apply to managing your software team. You need to figure out what is the value, what are the strengths and weaknesses of each individual in that group, and try to help them arrive at a personal development roadmap that actually is going to lead somewhere, that is going to fulfill them and make them feel engaged. And in order for you to be able to do that, you do really need to get to know these people. You need to get a bit personal with them so that they trust you, and so that you to understand them. This is an EQ type of thing. This is why I say that there's so few people who can do this well, because basically what it comes down to is that if you can't make a meaningful human connection to these people, you will never understand them well enough to do anything besides using the teachings of people who have that ability. And that is what most managers do. Most managers today, they read a lot. There's a lot of theory about how to do these sorts of things well. And some of the there's a lot of good content that can give you many tips and tricks on how to deal with certain situations and so forth. But at the end of the day, a person who has a low emotional intelligence does not know how to apply these very soft teachings and this wisdom, because there is a lot of wisdom in the content that is out there, but if you don't know how to apply it, you're not going to be able to execute very well. And that is unfortunately most managers. And if you want to be the exception, you need to understand that your emotional intelligence is going to be the determining factor here. So that's one part of it. The other part is that you have to understand you can't be everybody's friend. You have to understand that you're looking to make the strongest team that you can possibly make. So when you get to know the people, you will understand if someone has a poisonous behavior or how the dynamics work and so forth. And if you have someone who's disrupting your team, or someone who is causing issues and so forth, first and foremost try to solve the issue. Try to resolve any type of issues that or personal beefs or whatever. Like try to get, and that's where all of these teachings can come in really handy about non-threatening communication and teamwork and so forth. But fundamentally, at some point you have to make the decision. If you can't solve it that way, you need to start splitting people up. You might have to get someone out of the team because they simply have a very strong negative influence on the other team members, and just make that call and say, I have to focus on what's good for the group, what's good for all the people here, and make them into the best team that I can possibly make them. So what I want you to take away from this is that if it is very possible to take a unperformant team and make them highly performant, but it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and for quite a lot of managers, it is something that they will not be able to do. They might be able to get some traction. They will be able to get some type of results, but it's extraordinarily hard to create a high-performant team out of people who have either personal issues or some other type of problem where they're unwilling to either change, or like there's a problem with the personal chemistry and so forth. Because at the end of the day, in order for them to be high performant, you need them to be able to trust and talk to each other and collaborate, because that's the sweet spot. That is the thing that is the most determining factor for all high performant teams. Do they have the ability to effectively bring all of their strengths together and communicate with trust, understanding, and shared vision? These are the things that make the difference. These are the things that are going to make your team high performant. And if you're going to be a team lead and you're going to create this sort of situation, you have to understand that your job is to make each person in that team the best person of whatever they want to be that you can possibly make them, and make those strengths that they have shine through, so that the other people start feeling that there's a symbiotic relationship here. Because if you have people who either are poisonous, or people who are unperformant, or who are not really pulling their weight in comparison to everybody else, this is the thing that is causing friction. You're trying at your best to create a situation where everybody feels like all of the people here, they're really needed to reach our goals. If you can get to that point, you will have a high performance team. I promise you that much. Have a great day.